Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Final Trade. It's once again time for me to put my hubris on full display and make predictions for the 2023 TCG investing world. Now, I necessarily have fewer predictions this year than last, and there are two reasons for that. One is during my video talking about my predictions from last year and how they went, I realized I had made several predictions that just weren't measurable. You really can't figure out if your prediction was worth anything if you can't go and measure something and then see if you predicted it correctly or not. So I won't be doing any predictions like that don't have some type of at least anecdotally measurable way to verify them. The second is that I feel right now like there are a much smaller number of possible futures through 2023 than there were through 2022. And what I mean by that is that we're kind of in this economic funk in the US, in Western economies, in developed economies. They're all just kind of slowly dithering downward. And I expect that to continue for a while. You know, it could go through the summer, it could go into next fall, maybe beyond that. I don't know, it's hard to say. But we're going to spend probably most of the year in generally unfavorable economic territory. And so unemployment will continue to creep upwards a little bit. Maybe inflation will remain elevated, though not as high as it was during some parts of 2022. And so all of those things kind of conspire to limit the total possibilities of potential futures that we might have through this year. And so there just aren't as many wild kind of estimates and predictions that I can make because I feel like there's kind of just a narrow path that the year could take. So, having said that and kind of laid some groundwork, my first prediction for the year is a follow-on to prediction I made last year and that seemed to have panned out, but will probably continue, and that's that grading costs will continue to come down over the course of 2023. Now, I may have misspoken in my review video from my 2022 predictions that I did a couple weeks ago. I may have misspoken and said that PSA did not have their $18 bulk level open. They do, but you have to be a member of their yearly subscriber service. But of course, you don't really care about paying $99 for their yearly service if you're grading a bunch of cards because it's going to basically, it'll be a small expense compared to the marginal cost of $18 per additional card to get it graded, but then tracked and insured shipping both directions to and from PSA. So you don't really care about that. It's that $18 per card for the bulk rate that you care about. And my prediction is, over the course of the year, it's going to continue to come down. I think when we come back and we look at this video again at the beginning of 2024, we'll be able to go to PSA's website and just look at their pricing, and I think their bulk rate will be less than $18. Now, the reason for that is there are basically two reasons you grade a card. One is value. So you can imagine people who are professional sports card dealers. They go through, they buy up collections, they buy single cards, and part of what they do in their business is they get some worthy cards graded to enhance their value. Because if you have a very clean copy of a rare card, and let's say the raw card sells for $200, if you get it graded and it comes in at a PSA 9 or 10, then the value of that card might go up to $300, $400, $500, just depending on the characteristics. Obviously, the older of a card it is, the more it'll gain value by having received a high grade. So adding value to cards is one reason you get them graded. And in the TCG world, that's kind of a thing. I mean, the oldest Magic cards are 30 years old, and so you do have a lot of good candidates for grading high-quality examples to add value to them. But the majority of TCG cards just are not old enough for you to gain a lot of value by grading them. And so then it comes to the second reason that people grade it, and I will call that vanity. But really, it's just, they just want to grade it. They love the card. It means something to them. It's sentimental. And I think in a negative economic environment, that's the kind of thing that goes by the wayside. Spending $18 per card plus whatever portion of the $99 subscription fee for the year gets applied to that card, plus tracked and insured shipping both ways, you know, it just becomes really expensive. It becomes $20, $22, $25 per card to have it graded. And what you'll see if you spend much time on the our Pokemon TCG subreddit is that a lot of those people, they will just take handfuls of packed fresh, newly printed cards from sets that are still in print. And they'll send them off to be graded. And sometimes, yeah, it is the alternate art chase cards. It's something really rare. It's a rainbow secret rare or whatever. But there are times when they just send huge stacks of junk cards, basically, junk cards off to be graded. And I think a lot of that will fall by the wayside. That kind of vanity grading because you love the card. People will put that on hold and wait for prices to get lower just because of the general economic vice clamping down on the economy. And so that will put pressure on PSA and the other grading houses to lower their prices. And so I think over the course of the year, now I'm not going to go out on a limb and say how much I think they'll lower their prices. I used to think that the old $7, $8 bulk rates were possible again. Maybe they are. Right now it doesn't look like it, but I certainly think at least a couple dollars the prices will come down by, because you're going to have a lot of people, especially in the Pokemon world, who grade junk cards. Just stop it. They'll just quit because they won't feel like they have the just expendable money to waste on that anymore. So that's my first prediction. My second prediction is that older Magic product will continue to remain weak in price. And by older, I mean, let's say everything Zendikar Rising forward. So Zendikar Rising came out September of 2020, I believe. And so all of the 21 product, all of the 22 product, with maybe a few exceptions. You know, maybe Double Masters 2022 see some good upticks. Maybe Modern Horizons 2 see some good ticking upwards once it's officially out of print. But for the most part, all of those 21 and 22 era Magic products, they're just going to remain weak. And the reason is I looked over at my distributor that I'm with, one of, 4 or 5 Magic distributors in the US, and still in stock today, they have Zendikar Rising draft and set boxes, Call Time draft and set boxes, Strixhaven draft and set boxes, AFR draft and set boxes. They've still got all of those in stock, and those sets, officially, unofficially, went out of print at the beginning of May of 22. They've been out of print for 8 months, and the distributors are still sitting on inventory of both of those. And additionally, WotC was dumping boxes from all 4 of those sets onto Amazon up until the end of 2022. So it started doing a dump sometime in December of 22, and it ran it through December 31st. And when we rolled into the new financial quarter for WotC, they stopped. But the point is, WotC has inventory of those sets. These are standard sets that have rotated out of standard in September of 2022. WotC's sitting on inventory, distributors are sitting on inventory, card stores are sitting on inventory, and they've rotated out of standard, so the demand just isn't there anymore. And you have to know that Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow, Kamigawa, and Streets, all of those are probably printed, and I don't want to say seriously printed to oblivion, but they probably had very high, healthy print runs, and there's probably tons of inventory of those standard sets sitting at distributors at WotC. We know they're just sitting at card stores. And come September of this year, 2023, those will all rotate out of standard and the demand for them will suddenly drop. So I think that basically none of those sets catches a good break, gets a good bid under them, and starts going up during 2023. I think there's just too much inventory in the system. WotC has, maybe from this point onwards, maybe we'll start seeing it with March of the Machines, that they've reduced print runs to kind of restore a tiny bit of scarcity, but it's hard to have much faith in them right now. And, you know, I've been watching a lot of this D&D open game license debacle that's going on with WotC right now, and it really is affecting me in terms of making me think more pessimistically about WotC's choices, let's say in the first half of 2023. And so I would not be surprised if we find out that, you know, Phyrexia is way overprinted, Dominaria Remastered is way overprinted, even though it's a great set, and I think it will probably be like Commander Legends and Jumpstart, where you almost cannot overprint it. The market will absorb any amount. But I think there will be tons of it, and when there's tons of Dominaria Remastered coming into the market and people are excited to buy it, then they're not spending their money buying all that discounted Zendikar Rising that's sitting out there at what, 90, 95, $100 a box for set and draft still today, 8 months after it went out of print, 5 months after it rotated out of standard. So I think there are considerable things that will put downward pressure on all of those old 21 and 22 era Magic products for the rest of this year. I just don't think any of them is going to see a big leg upwards. Maybe some consolidation. Arguably, that's what we're seeing already, where those boxes have been dithering around in the $90 to $100 range for so long already. And the next one is, even if we get into a macro recovery this year, there's so much product already printed that we'll just see slow appreciation. Yeah, this kind of follows on logically from the next one. Let's say that the macro economy, it kind of hits its bottom in the summer, in the early fall sometime, and we start seeing small ticks upwards in the macro economy. Well, the TCG economy basically lags it. It leads it on the downslope, it lags it on the upslope, because to a lot of people, to normal collectors and players, this is a hobby. This is something you expend discretionary income on. We're the weirdos here as investors, putting boxes and boxes and boxes of this stuff back in our closets for the long term. But to most people, this is a discretionary hobby. And so to the extent that they may feel a little more economically secure later in the year after the wider economy has bottomed, maybe once unemployment numbers have stopped going down and start to barely tick back upwards, maybe once the stock market starts to reliably go back upwards, once 401k account balances start to slowly start improving, then people will feel more confident putting more money back into TCGs. And so it's going to lag the wider economy. It's going to take longer. And I just don't think the effect will be that big this year. So the other part of that is, again, it's tempered by all this product sitting on the shelves, all this product that maybe the market goes through a capitulation and drastically marks down all of those old 21 era sets and blows through them, but maybe not. And so that's going to be a headwind against turning upwards later in the year. So my fourth prediction is Flesh and Blood. It's going to grow quite a bit this year. A lot of players are taking refuge in Flesh and Blood. They're irritated at WotC, and we don't really see that here on the investor side because we're not that concerned. I mean, we know Magic will still be around a decade from now. We know it'll still be the biggest game in North America a decade from now. We're not that emotional about what WotC's done. We're disappointed, but we're not that emotional and angry, and we're not taking our playtime elsewhere. A lot of us, and from talking to my patrons and other people in comments on my videos, a lot of us barely have time to play Magic with the other requirements of our lives and our careers and everything else. And so at the LGS level, you're seeing it though. You're seeing a lot of anecdotal stories from people talking about walking into their LGS and the people just playing at the tables are not playing Magic as much as they used to. Even in some cases, Friday Night Magic has given way to Yu-Gi-Oh! And other games. So I think that will continue through the year. I'm trying to think of a good way that we can measure that. We will be able to look at things like prices of older Flesh and Blood sets that are out of print. So basically all of your Welcome to Wraith, Arcane Rising Crew, Monarch Tales, Everfest. Is Everfest out of print? Well, it printed first edition, and then they never released the Unlimited, I think. So maybe we'll be able to see like a big tick upwards in those prices before the end of the year. And actually, that would be a really good sign, because if you think that the rest of the market won't come back hard, but Flesh and Blood does, then that's a good indicator that they're gaining a lot of players. A lot of investment dollars are moving over there. And so the prediction is, I think that Flesh and Blood will have a great year. It will grow a lot, and it'll grow on the back of it, one, being a great game, exciting, fun to play, well-designed, very well managed, and two, on the back of lots of people just getting mad at WotC and wanting to walk away for a little while. Now, in the long run, the multi-year runway, I don't really see a lot of players quitting Magic long-term to go to Flesh and Blood. I think what will happen is a lot of players will start dividing their time and their effort and their money between the two games. And there's a potential future where WotC gets its act together sometime late this year, early 24. Maybe another company buys them from Hasbro. Maybe activist shareholders cause Hasbro to spin off WotC into a separate company. Things really turn around. You hit a golden age of Magic, and Flesh and Blood gets steamrolled by the power of WotC and revived, rejuvenated Magic. That's a possible future. Right now it looks pretty hopeless, but it could be out there on the horizon somewhere. There's a chance. And so my last prediction for the year, just kind of a wild prediction I wanted to put out there. Sometime around May of 22, I believe, TCG Player bought a robotics company in Denver. And not long after, they introduced their robotic, their card sorting robot. And they have 2 models of it, which basically operate at different speeds. They can process different numbers of cards per hour. And so it uses image recognition to identify what card it's looking at, and then it sorts it. And it's really great for card stores that try to run large singles businesses. So my prediction is that TCG Player is going to go one step beyond that. They will have a inventory management robot for singles businesses. And what that means is it's the kind of thing where you can air house, maybe you're familiar with air house, where you have robots basically running a warehouse. And so it's a packed 3-dimensional warehouse. It would be something you'd imagine like the size of a small room or so, and it would manipulate bins of cards within it. The bins would eventually get sent down to a picking station where a robot would pick it. And so it would be a completely hands-off way for a card store with large singles inventories to fill orders or fill their backfill invoices with TCG Direct, things like that. And so that's my one kind of wild, unsubstantiated prediction for the future. But TCG Player owns a robotics company, and that's kind of the next logical step of trying to use robotics and technology to wring more value out of the card business. So I think it's likely to happen at some point in the future, and I'll go out on a limb and say it's going to happen in 23. So let me know if you have some crazy predictions. Hopefully they're things that can be measured and verified by the end of the year. Put them down in the comments below. And if there's some great ones and you got them right, then when I come back at the beginning of 24, I'll talk about them in that review video 12 months from now. Otherwise, it's great to have you all here. It's a lot of fun, and I enjoy the heck out of this channel. Thanks for coming along with me and for making this so much fun. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Join me on Final Trade.